Welcome, sir. Welcome, Mr. Atul.
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
evening, sir.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir. You can share your screen also now.
Okay.
Good evening, Atul. Arundeep.
Good evening.
Good evening, Atul. CNC here.
Hey, good evening. Just a minute.
I'll go on mute. Join whenever required.
Yeah, let me know when to start. I'm ready.
CNC, sir. Shall we wait 2 minutes?
Yeah, okay.
Time is 4:29. Exactly 4:30 will start.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Arundev, sir. CNC, sir. Shall we start?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, go ahead. Start.
Okay.
Yeah, start.
Good evening, one and all gathered here. I am Robin from PAL's Program Management Office. Campus event Acquire session on deep technology hosted by Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science and Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering. I would request the MC of the day, Mohammad Kamaruniza and Manimaran, to take care of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine. Today's session is being organized by Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science and Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering. I'm really thankful for everyone who gave us this opportunity. Before we begin the session, let me explain you the code of conduct. One, please make sure to stay on mute to avoid any sort of disturbances. Your Zoom ID must be in this format: short name of your college, name of your name, and hyphen student or faculty. I'll repeat once again: short name of your college, hyphen your name, hyphen student or faculty. Use the chat box to ask any questions, doubts regarding today's topic. Your questions will be answered at the end of the session. Feedback and quiz forms will be shared in the chat box in the end of the meeting. Be sure to fill it out. I hope you all have heard the code of conduct. I'll repeat once again. Make sure you guys are all on mute. Make sure your Zoom ID is in this format. Short name of your college, hyphen your name, hyphen student or faculty. Use the chat box for any sort of questions and doubts you have regarding the topic. Your questions will be answered at the end of the session. Feedback forms and quiz forms will be shared at the end of the session in the chat box. So please make sure to fill it out.
Thank you, Nisha. It's my pleasure to invite Dr. Mr. Arun Dev to give our intro about a PALS. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Most of you on the call are very familiar with PALS by now. This is the 23rd event that we are conducting this year since the 1st of August. So I wouldn't take much time on explaining about PALS, but more specifically, I'd just like to highlight about the Acquire program that we are having today. The Acquire programs this year are primarily focused on deep technology items, items that are open to exponential growth. This is the fourth such event this year. We had two events earlier about AI in healthcare, and AI in rural applications. And the third one was on intelligent systems, the nexus of sensors and AI. So now we have the fourth major component of those deep technologies or exponential technologies, blockchain, where we have Mr. Atul Marathe to talk to us. I'd also like to thank both Dr. Vasudevan and Dr. Badrinathan for joining us today and spending some valuable time in addressing us. Now I hand it over to the MC to take it forward. Thank you. Hey, you're on mute, Mani.
Mani?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Thank you, sir. I'd like to invite Dr. N. Vasudevan, the Dean Academics of Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science, to share some words.
Yeah. Good evening to all of you. I'm very happy that PALS campus event Acquire has been conducted in the thrust areas identified by the AICTE, namely artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain, robotics, quantum computing, data sciences, cybersecurity, augmented reality and virtual reality, and 3D printing and design. So these are the thrust areas that are identified by the AICTE. And I'm very happy that PALS is doing a great work in conducting various programs for our students as well as for faculty, and elucidating all the recent advancements in the thrust areas. And this particular program, as I see here, it is blockchain technology with a big disruptive potential. And we are all using internet for information, and in future we will be using internet for of value, that is Web 3.0. And this is the most advanced, much talked about topic. And definitely I hope that the student teams will, as well as the guest speaker of today, Mr. Atul Marathe, will give a great insight on how this particular technology is going to rule the world in the next generation. And of course, the students' participation is also present in this event, and the importance of digital assets and comparison of any three consensus techniques used in blockchain, their advantages and limitations, importance of digital identity and its management using blockchain applications. I wish all the students all the very best for participating in this event. And and when coming to blockchain, see, there are many key features and key takeaways of blockchain as a concept. And blockchain, as you see, it is a very specific type of a database. It differs from the regular type of a typical database. And the way it stores information. Blockchain stores data in blocks that are then chained together. And as new data comes in, it is entered into a fresh block. Once the block is filled with data, it is chained into onto the previous blocks, which makes the data chain together in a chronological order. So different types of information can be stored on a blockchain, but the most common use so far has been as a ledger for transactions. In Bitcoin's case, blockchain is used in a decentralized way so that no single person or a group has control, rather, all users collectively retain control. So, decentralized blockchains are immutable, which means that the data entered is irreversible. So as I understand this particular blockchain has a different type of storage structure and its attributes of cryptocurrency, and it smoothens the decentralization and the contactless office is the talk of the world nowadays. So banking transactions will be contactless in future, and it ensures transparency and it has a high secure chain, and there are plenty of pros as well as cons in this blockchain. Especially in banks, lots of time is going to be saved, as well as privacy is going to be improved, and security of transactions will be high, and all these things are going to be the future technology development. And this blockchain, perhaps I would look into it as a technology which will be prominently used in banking and finance, currency transactions, even in healthcare, maybe records of property, and smart contracts. Now they call it as a smart contract, and digital signatures are available everywhere. And the supply chain, especially, is going to go a long way with this blockchain. And of course, I also think that voting, Indian voting system will also be dependent on blockchain. So there are plenty of pros, like improved accuracy by removing human involvement in verifications, cost reduction by eliminating third-party verifications, decentralization. Uh, since it is decentralized, it is very hard to tamper with. Transactions are secure, private, and efficient. Transparent technology, of course. Uh, Also, there are certain cons with respect to blockchain. Significant technology cost associated with the mining the bitcoins, and low transactions per second. History of use of illicit activities, like bitcoins is mostly used for this illicit activities nowadays. So the regulations must be in place for use of this particular technology, and definitely this blockchain is going to uh, revolutionize this industry, as well as the life of human being on this earth. And Web 3.0 is a big disruptive potential technology which is going to come. So I wish all the organizers, as well as the participants and the students, all the very best today evening, and have a great challenge, and all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you for sharing the information with us. That was very brief and illuminating. Now I'd like to invite Dr. K.S. Badrinathan, the Dean Educational Development of Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering, to say a few words. Welcome, sir.
A very good evening to one and all present here. Probably at this juncture, first of all, I want to congratulate Pals. Probably Pals was one of the very few who adapted to the new normal, and they are giving a completely uninterrupted services. So hats off to Pals for that. So coming back here about blockchain. So one thing I wanted to make it clear, because many students are here. So a few years back, we have heard of terms like latest technology, advanced technology, and things like that. But of late, you see those terms are not being used, and instead, this term like disruptive technology is being very widely used. So what's the difference between advanced technology and a disruptive technology? So I was just pondering about that, and when you say advanced technology, probably there is an incremental improvement over an existing technology. So when we say disruptive technology, it means that there is a radical change, and it totally changes the way we do things, be it your personal day-to-day affairs or your office or industry, whatever it is. Say probably one of the biggest example for disruptive technology, probably I would say e-commerce. So once e-commerce came into place, then the way we did shopping has completely changed. Without even moving an inch from your place, you are able to make purchases. That's one of the examples of a disruptive technology. But then again, there's a big difference when we talk about the technology that's advancing. Probably when you look at it as a career point of view, probably I frequently tell these two terms to the students. One is upskilling, others reskilling. When there is an incremental improvement, probably you do upskilling. But whereas when it comes to disruptive technology, where you have to totally reskill yourselves. So, and another thing is when maybe a decade before, when you talk about something is advancing in terms of technology, the life of that technology, maybe it will span for 5 years, maybe maximum of a decade. But now with the rate at which the technology is developing, it's a very rapid pace. And what we talk about disruptive technologies, maybe the life is very short compared to the development that happened a decade back. So now that being the case, probably, we have Mr. Atul here, probably can correct me if I'm wrong. So that being the case, should I embrace this new technology or this disruptive technology? Again, you cannot, go away, or you cannot avoid technology. So that is where I want to say, especially to the student community, you have to constantly reskill yourself. Unless you reskill yourself every now and then, it's very difficult for you to sustain and grow in your career path. So that is very important. So that being said, blockchain is one of the disruptive technologies that is there. Probably I assume there are certain constraints in making that as a what to say, as a commonly available technology or a technology used by a common man. And probably Bitcoin is one word which I heard of, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and things like that. Probably a virtual wallet like our credit card. So probably these are the few words which are terminologies which I have heard of. Probably I only guess or assume that blockchain is the technology which runs in the background, making these things happen. So that's the very limited knowledge I have. So in fact, along with others, I'm very eager to hear from Mr. Atul about what blockchain is. In fact, I thought I'll escape by saying that I'm a mechanical engineer, so not versed with all these technologies. After seeing this slide where Mr. Atul is again, as a mechanical background, I thought I am either old or I am out of technology. Probably I have to tune into that, and after listening to Mr. Atul, I'll be able to understand what actually blockchain technology is. So I think I'll not take much time, and probably we have three teams from co-host Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science, and from, I'm sorry, Vellalar College of Engineering and Technology. So I wish the teams a great success, and I'm sure that the speech by Mr. Atul and the discussions and presentations what we are going to have from these teams, we will going to have a really good takeaway from this particular event. So once again, thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and I wish the program of the function a great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Badrinath.
Thank you, sir. Now let's move on to the speaker of today's event. I'm profusely elated to take an opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker of the day, Mr. Atul M. Marathe. Before introducing him, I'd like to talk a little bit about him. Atul has over 35 years of experience in software services and software product development industry. He has vast experience of managing product development of ERP and EAI products. He did several roles, including a global business solution center leader and a VP technical role in large organizations. Atul did his graduation from IIT Bombay 1982 and Master's in Industrial Engineering from NITIE Mumbai 1984. He has a passion for training and has conducted several courses for NCM students and been on exam committee of Pune University. He was a recognized IBM business trainer, conducting project management and business consulting training.
Atul is currently a freelance consultant or coach or a mentor role to guide others to learn from his experience and set up organizational units that promote knowledge creations and best practice sharing within an organization. He has taken a yearly retirement from a full-time job to pursue his area of interest. His focus is on employment enablement education for engineering and management graduates. His skills are in developing and conducting a related training courses in blockchain technology, project management, business consulting, and life skills. For past 3 years, he is learning a blockchain technology as a cutting-edge technology with a bright future. He completed several online courses from EDX, IBM, NPTEL, and University of Nicosia, include getting IBM badges for blockchain essential. He has a good connection for exploring further learning opportunity in blockchain in Canada. His hobbies include trekking, farming, and training a personal finance management and soft skills, promoting a self-learning method for the same. And now I going to call the speaker of the event, Mr. Atul Marathe, to carry on the session. Welcome, sir.
Oh, thank you, Mani. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, good evening and welcome to all of you. This is one of the gatherings where I find a large number of students interested in the session, more than 200 students registering. And I hope I'll try to make this session a bit interesting for all of you. So we have heard a lot about blockchain from Dr. Vasudevan as well as Dr. Badrinathan. And yes, I share with Dr. Badrinathan that yes, I'm also a mechanical engineer, and I thought that technologies are so to say difficult to understand. But when I started teaching technologies, I realized that I need to first understand them the way I want students to learn them. So I would say that yes, online learning, self-learning is one of the best ways of doing it. And that's how I have learned this technology till today. And I hope that you will also be able to follow and learn it on your own.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let me start with the session with, I will share the screen and then we'll go through the set of slides. I think that's okay. Yeah, just let me know if you are able to see the screen.
Not yet.
Yeah. Today, what we are going to cover are basically three.
We can able to.
Right? You're able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
yes, yes, sir. I'm
So
able
today
to see
we're going
also.
to cover three basic topics. One is why blockchain is a disruptive technology. I think today you heard it from Dr. Vasudevan earlier that yes, there are some technologies which change the style in which you work day to day. And that is why they affect your day-to-day working, like the internet. And blockchain is one of such promising technologies which will affect our day-to-day work. We'll see how it does. Then we will quickly look at some of the business needs for blockchain applications before we get into some technical details of how a block is created and how the blockchain works. Because today being a new technology, a lot of people are interested in understanding how this technology works. And I would like to caution all of you today that just like we use databases today without understanding much of how internally they work, you might come to a time in 2 to 5 years where nobody is interested in knowing how the blockchain really works, but they'll say, yeah, it's there, just like a database. Just like there's an Excel sheet, there's a database, there's an Oracle, it works. And you store data in that. You don't worry how it goes internally and what it does. But today it's new. So a lot of people need to understand how it works internally, and it is changing also a lot. So there are a lot of learning and job opportunities in that. I would like to focus more on the learning and the job opportunities because of the audience we have today. It's not an industry audience or not a software developer audience who is more looking at business applications to be built. And that has been my core area all through my business tenure or in the jobs, that my role was more to look into business applications rather than the technology behind it. Today, I think we have also 3 other sessions by students. So they will cover something related to digital assets, digital identity applications, and consensus methods used in blockchain. So I will not highlight those because those will be covered as a part of these sessions immediately after this session. So let's start with the first. Sorry. So there are 2, 3 things which are likely to disrupt our day-to-day working because of the blockchain technology. The first one is creating an internet of value instead of internet of information. Because right now we do have an internet which has monetary transactions which are possible. But the whole idea of doing those payment gateways is using a banking system which is not very much aligned to digital payments. It is an existing system on top of which we have added some digital payments, and our currencies today are also not fully digital in nature, and that's why there's a lot of buzz about cryptocurrencies and digital tokens and so on, which will make a lot of difference if we really want to go on a money which is not physical money but just a concept, or an internet based virtual money. Then we will see how businesses are changing because of smart contracts getting into place. Today we have each of the business house having their own computers. So I don't think there are any large businesses which run without computers today. Even small companies have their own laptops or PCs, and they use Excel based applications or DBase or any small database applications, and they have their own logic built into it. Today, all these logics are quite private and non-transparent. That is, the other companies don't know what is the logic you are using, or they don't share the logic. But if you start sharing this logic in a tamper-proof, transparent way, doing business with other parties becomes quite easy. And that is where smart contracts come into the play, where these business logics are shared across companies and they know how the other company is going to work. Currently, we have this done through legal contracts, which says that this is what we expect you to do, and there's a legal binding for you to do such and such things. But not exactly it gets replicated in the way the organization works. And that is not very clear how it replicates or how it is implemented in the organization. So if we have this internet-based digital assets and money, and we have smart contracts or applications also which run on the computer, then the question comes, where do we need people? Or do we really need people to run the company? Because if a company can run fully on logic, not on discrete human, I would say, discretion or interrupts, which people are trying more and more, that we should not have person-based judgments coming into the system. We should have a system that runs on logic. If that happens, we are looking at creating something known as a distributed autonomous organization. That is an organization that will work on multiple computers being distributed, and it is not owned by any country. It is not owned by any person. The biggest challenge for blockchain with these kind of organizations and these kind of applications is that with the legal community. They always say that if you build certain logic which is not okay, or it is against the rules of some country, then we would like to catch hold of the CEO and put him in bars so that nobody will be allowed to do such things. But if you start building these kind of applications without a CEO, without a country in which it is originating, then whom do you go to catch? That is the biggest problem with all the legal experts. They say that if such computer applications start mushrooming and they start running with AI, which is some intelligence of their own without people interfering in it, then they don't know whom to catch. And they cannot catch computers, and nor can they catch a distributed set of computers which work with each other. That is one of the biggest challenges. And Bitcoin has already proved that a lot of countries trying to ban it for various reasons, they have not been able to do so, because always Bitcoin finds some other way of going to some other country and start running from there. So that's one of the big examples which people have seen today. So let us see the first one, the internet of value. Today we have an internet in which you can share information. But if you want to share money or you want to transact something on the internet, you need to follow payment gateways. And payment gateways have a charge. Most of the time customers don't pay, or some governments like the government of India is now imposing that if you are doing UPI payments, then banks should not charge, because they want all these digital ways of payment to happen. And the reason they are doing that is they understand that if they don't do it, there will be a parallel system created on blockchain, which will anyway run. and the government currency will be useless. People will say, why go with digital payment gateways which charge me so much interest? I can use my own money and I can use my own currency and I can use my own technology to pay for it. So that's how it will work.
Robin, are you able to hear?
No, sir.
Lost
Okay,
him,
he has.
sir. Yeah.
No, I think we got
He lost.
disconnected.
Yeah, he lost his.
No, I think he'll come back again. Just give him a. I think he's back again.
Yes.
You have to unmute yourself, Atul, whenever you want to resume.
Yeah, sorry. I think the connection got felt something. Okay, so we were discussing about the need for an internet of value where basically we have digital assets, which get the physical assets get mapped into digital assets, and then we use money or some other ways to transfer those digital asset ownership from one person to other. So that's how business normally works, that you have assets that you own, or you have some materials or products that you own which can be mapped into digital assets, and then you transfer them for a price or for some money. So that's how it will work. So for that, we have to first get into more details of what is this existing way the money works and what are the basic functions of money that digital money can always replicate. So we see that there are three basic uses of money. It's a unit of account, it's a store of value, and it's a medium of exchange. I will not get into the economics of all this because yes, there are a lot of books, etc., available which talk to you about what is money about and how it is to be used. There are several characteristics of money, for example, durability, transportability, non-counterfeitable, and fungible, which I think one of our teams will cover in more details. There is one interesting thing about money which I would just like you to ponder upon a bit. That is money as a system of control. If you search for this video on the internet, Andreas Antonopoulos has several videos, and one of them is this, which talks about how money has been used by the government as a system of control. And a lot of people start believing today that if we want to get out of the government control, because more and more governments are becoming, I would say, not so trustworthy, they are saying that why not create a system which goes outside the control of the government, which is basically the money part of it. So there are interesting observations on that. And he said there are two kinds of people who will support this right away. It's not the rich people, it's not the business people, it's not the governments who will support all this. There are only two kinds of people who will support it. One is the people who don't have access to any bank. So if there are people who don't have any money in the bank, the government doesn't control their money. But they are all poor people, so the government is not too keen about it. But they may have a lot of money at some point of time if they become rich. But if they become rich, they can go to a banking system and the government gets control over what they do. So that's one set of people who may never go to the government to get control. And the second set of people are technical geeks. They are the people who start off from college today and they say, I don't have any money. I'm starting my career now. So why should I create a money which has a control by the government? And the government can freeze my assets. They can freeze my bank accounts and they can hold me responsible under different laws. And I would like to work on something which is not controlled by the government. So they will start with digital money. So those are the two set of people they are looking at. Anyway, we'll not get into more on this digital money part of it. But yes, Bitcoin, blockchain, all these are related to money concept. And the whole concept of this collective working or consensus mechanisms and collectively people working will hold true only if there's an incentive for it. And the incentive gets created by a money generated in the system itself as a token. So that's how it works outside the government control. Otherwise, it has to run with the regular money that we have, and then a lot of other controls automatically get implemented on it. So there are two streams of thinking here. Some people who believe that government control is good and money should be controlled, and a set of people who believe that no, the government doesn't have a right to control over the money because they misuse their control at many times. And there have been several examples in the past where government has misused their control over money to harass different people. So let's not get into that. Let's see that if we want to build a blockchain application, before we get into the technology part of it, we will see what is it that I need to look for, because any new technology that comes up, usually there's a hype around it. And then people say that all the problems in the world this technology is going to solve, which is not true for any of the technologies. The same is true for blockchain today. There are many people who believe that, yes, blockchain is going to solve all kinds of problems for us now, but that's not true. First of all, this flowchart tells you some simple things when you should use a blockchain and when you should not use a blockchain, and when you should use a public or a private blockchain or a hybrid combination. So there are 4 boxes you see there. There are several conditions under which you don't need to use a blockchain at all. There are certain conditions in which you go for a private blockchain, and there are only few conditions where you can go for a public blockchain, which is the ideal theory that you learn in blockchain. So if you learn theory of blockchain completely as a subject in computer science, you will always land blockchain, because that has the best, I would say, theoretical combinations are the best value for money that you get by using this technology. But every time, everywhere, people are not too convinced of doing that. So people are not convinced that we need to create organizations without people and nobody owning it and so on, which runs in a democratic manner. They're not too convinced that this will work at all. So they want something in between. So some of them go for a private blockchain. And most of the blockchain applications you see today are around private blockchains. There are very few public blockchain applications built. Typically, those kind of applications are built by the government, hoping or with a propaganda, I would say that yes, it is transparent, publicly available, and everybody can do it, and so on and so forth. But still, government has a lot of control over it. So it's not so easy for the government also to lose all the control that they have and build something for social good cause, so to say. So they can really build public blockchains for a social cause, but the government has their own motive of keeping control over things. So they can't get into a public blockchain, because then it will go out of control for the government and it will run on its own, which they don't like. But yes, we will see there are a lot of situations where blockchain can definitely help existing business also, without getting into this completely autonomous solutions or without losing track of the money that we have today and not getting into a parallel economy and so on. So for that, there are a few set of applications which I will not get into, but if you have seen the video that I had shared earlier, I hope all of you remember that. There's a video which I shared by Jaspreet Bindra. He's the CIO of Mahindra and Mahindra. And M&M is doing a lot of work on blockchain, and he has very clear ideas on what could help India at least to implement blockchain as a technology. And he gives some interesting examples of how blockchain is like your kitty party and how it is like the chit funds and so on and so forth, which were there for a long time and they were working very well. But because of the trust element gone, which people were quite trustworthy earlier, all the chit fund managers were trustworthy, kitty party members were trustworthy. And now since human trust relationships are going down and down, they are trying to replace that with technology trust. And blockchain can work as an exact equivalent of all that was happening in the human sense or in the physical world onto a software world. You can map them. So you could read that or you could see the video by Jaspreet Bindra on that. That's very interesting one. And he talks of all these applications of how blockchain can help these, especially in the Indian context. But let me get to something else, that how exactly is the difference between what is happening today in business applications and what is it that blockchain is promising. So one is, today we know that a lot of business houses, they interact with each other. For example, you can take a motor car. If you are selling a motor car to a client, for example, there is a factory, first of all, which creates the car, and there is a dealer network through which the car is sold. Then there is a government agency like the RTO or something where the car is to be registered. Then there's an insurance company which has to give you the insurance for that car. And there are other regulatory agencies which ensure that it is BS4 compliant or BS5 compliant or whatever compliances are required, and so on and so forth. So there are at least 5 or 6 agencies who need to know that some car is produced and sold to somebody. It's not just that somebody is buying a car from somebody. Similarly, when you do a second sale also, a lot of such things get transferred from one place to other. Today, the way it happens is the transacting parties, that is the seller and the buyer, are collectively responsible to inform everybody else around them what's happening with that particular asset, which I call as a car. So car can be mapped as a digital asset. So what is happening with this? And everybody else needs to get their records updated when there is a change of ownership, or there's a modification in that car, or there's something else happening. Something got expired, you have to renew something. So all those things need to be updated somewhere. So today, all these applications do talk to each other over the internet, and they have some way of communicating data to each other, and they update all the records, and it works. It's not that it doesn't work. The only problem is it works because of message transfers. They have no guarantee that somebody telling me that this happened is really true or not. Most of the time, they don't have any way to validate it except going by the face value of it, that somebody said, okay, I sold my car to XYZ. They believe, okay, fine, you might have sold. So let me update it. Or somebody says that here is my insurance documents, which I can forge, or I can create from somewhere fake and say, here are my insurance documents, please take them. They say, okay, I'll take them, until they realize at a later date that they are fake or they are not correct. So there is a possibility of faking information because you have a closed computer system that is sharing data with other systems. And that is where this smart contract comes into picture, where you say that you have systems which share not only data, but they share the logic also, so that they know what programs are running and what is it that you updated in your system also. So same thing should get reflected in my system. So if that is to be done, why should you have so many computers updating all these records on their own? Because all these systems are controlled by different people. All of them, none of them have a collective view of what's happening about this particular car as a digital asset. They have their own view. And based on their view, they get a conclusion that something is happening about that car. And most of the time, these are synchronized correctly. If they are incorrectly synchronized, you get into legal battles. To overcome this, the way blockchain technology suggests to go about it is this way. It says that since all these computers work on the software platforms, and most of the computers today work on a cloud-based platform also, it's quite likely that all these different participants have their data on the cloud. And there are 6 partitions on the cloud in this example, where you can see that there are 6 partitions, each partition storing some data about that car on the cloud. All that data might be stored on the same disk also. You never know. That could be a coincidence that on the cloud, all that data is on the same disk, 6 copies. And then all these companies validate and verify that the copies what they have is correct. Instead, if you create a single copy in the first place and share it with all 6 of them selectively, depending on what data you want to share with them, and they update or validate or verify the same copy, everybody, and they again share the validated or verified copy, that is what is blockchain about. So it's not as simple as saying that you have a database which is technically XYZ, something possible, something not possible, but it's a completely different way of thinking which will change the world. Can I have 5-6 companies collectively working on a computer application together rather than working on 6 applications and sharing data through their own applications which are controlled by their own? So this is a very difficult mindset for you to decide that let me have a shared application on which the required data is shared and I get the required data, and that's the copy which everybody has already accepted. So that's quite difficult. I would say not so easy to accept. The first thing that is accepted right now is there are a lot of banks, and these banks do bank-to-bank transfers, because when you transfer money from one account to other, all these banks are involved. You have the branch office, then you have the head office, then you have the collecting office or the city main office where there's an interbank transfer happening. Then it will go to the other bank head office, it will go to their branch office, and then it will go to the other bank account for some other person. That happens within our country. And if it is internationally, then there are a lot of other gateways and other more banks are involved in it. So there are at least 8 or 10 hops for that data to go correctly from one place to other. And all this is happening digitally in the banks today, because banks are most digitalized today. So they started thinking that why do we record this 7-8 times and try to reconcile and tally and there's a time lag, and there are all kinds of problems happening with it because of the time lag delays, that what happened where, and something got updated, something did not get updated. Why not start with a complete system of our own? So a lot of banks have come together and they have created a bank chain in India, and similarly there are bank consortiums, and all these international money transfers that are happening worldwide are tracked through blockchain today. And that's one of the best applications, I would say, which is a running application for blockchain, besides some other in supply chain and healthcare and so on. So those are different ones. If you look at the left side of the block here, these are the four stacks or the four ways I would say the platform is built on blockchain. So first you need to understand what is a blockchain. It's very similar to a database, as we saw. And once we start building applications on database, you know how detailed or how great knowledge we have about the database, except the four standard commands that we use in database. I hope all of you are aware of those four standard things, that either you, all the SQL commands that you write, either they create a data or they update a data or delete a data or they view a data. So only four are there. It's called CRUD in short: create, remove, update, and view. And so CRUD are the four things you do. So blockchain will replace that kind of a database with some different properties. We'll see soon what they are. Based on the blockchain, today the applications are created which are called a ledger. So a ledger is the age-old ledger. We will see in a video what is this ledger and how it works. In case you are not familiar with the financial ledger, which was started way back in 1900 or before that, same concept is used. Now the ledger basically tracks each digital asset. So digital assets are the ones which are tracked through the ledger, that where did this asset originate, who is the current owner, and who transferred it to whom, and who is the next owner, and there's a history of it. So all the assets for which have a history and you need to track who is the current owner can be done through a ledger on the blockchain. And hence all the business applications and the business network get built on digital assets. So that's a simple way to see how blockchain applications will be created and run. So let us get into some technical details of the blockchain now. And we will cover some technological part of it, because all of you are from colleges in faculty and students. So obviously you will be interested more in knowing how this technology works and how blockchain really works. So there are some simple videos. Again, I would say, try to make use of online learning resources and you'll get to know a lot how all this works. So technically speaking, a blockchain is just a shared ledger for recording the history of transactions. And there are two main important characteristics of blockchain which make it different from the database. That is, from your CRUD application options, you remove two of them. That is, you remove the update part of it and you remove the delete part of it. So that's all. So you can either create records or you can view records. If you have only these two options, what is left is a blockchain. And that's how it works. So I would request Robin to run the video on blockchain, because I think it runs better from his machine with the audio and the sound quality.
Yes, sir. Can you stop?
Should I stop sharing the screen?
Yes. You stop share,
Yeah.
then I will share it.
Right. And please listen to the video carefully, because you have a quiz after that.
Are you able to hear the sound?
Yes, Robin.
Many people think of blockchain as the technology that powers Bitcoin.
So
While
are
this
you-
was its original purpose, blockchain is capable of so
Right,
much
perfect.
more. Despite the sound of the word, there's not just one blockchain. Blockchain is shorthand for a whole suite of distributed ledger technologies that can be programmed to record and track anything of value, from financial transactions to medical records or even land titles. You might be thinking, we already have processes in place to track data. What's so special about blockchain? Let's break down the reasons why blockchain technology stands to revolutionize the way we interact with each other. Reason number one, the way it tracks and stores data. Blockchain stores information in batches called blocks that are linked together in a chronological fashion to form a continuous line, metaphorically, a chain of blocks. If you make a change to the information recorded in a particular block, you don't rewrite it. Instead, the change is stored in a new block showing that X changed to Y at a particular date and time. Sound familiar? That's because blockchain is based on the centuries-old method of the general financial ledger. It's a non-destructive way to track data changes over time. Here's one example. Let's say there was a dispute between Anne and her brother Steve over who owns a piece of land that's been in the family for years. Because blockchain technology uses the ledger method, there is an entry in the ledger showing that Adam first owned the property in 1900. When Adam sold the property to Dave in 1930, a new entry was made in the ledger, and so on. Every change of ownership of this property is represented by a new entry in the ledger, right up until Anne bought it from their father in 2007. Anne is the current owner, and we can see that history in the ledger. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Unlike the age-old ledger method, originally a book, then a database file stored on a single system, blockchain was designed to be decentralized and distributed across a large network of computers. This decentralizing of information reduces the ability for data tampering and brings us to the second factor that makes blockchain unique. It creates trust in the data. Before a block can be added to the chain, a few things have to happen. First, a cryptographic puzzle must be solved, thus creating the block. The computer that solves the puzzle shares the solution to all of the other computers on the network. This is called proof of work. The network will then verify this proof of work, and if correct, the block will be added to the chain. The combination of these complex math puzzles and verification by many computers ensures that we can trust each and every block on the chain. Because the network does the trust building for us, we now have the opportunity to interact directly with our data in real time. And that brings us to the third reason blockchain technology is such a game changer: no more intermediaries. Currently, when doing business with one another, we don't show the other person our financial or business records. Instead, we rely on trusted intermediaries, such as a bank or lawyer, to view our records and keep that information confidential. These intermediaries build trust between the parties and are able to verify, for example, that, yes, Anne is the rightful owner of this land. This approach limits exposure and risk, but also adds another step to the exchange, which means more time and money spent. If Anne's land title information was stored in a blockchain, she could cut out the middleman, her lawyer, who would ordinarily confirm her information with Steve. As we now know, all blocks added to the chain have been verified to be true and can't be tampered with, so Anne can simply show Steve her land title information secured on the blockchain. Anne would save considerable time and money by cutting out the middleman. This type of trusted peer-to-peer interaction with our data can revolutionize the way we access, verify, and transact with one another. And because blockchain is a type of technology and not a single network, it can be implemented in many different ways. Some blockchains can be completely public and open to everyone to view and access. Others can be closed to a select group of authorized users, such as your company, a group of banks, or government agencies. And there are hybrid public-private blockchains too. In some, those with private access can see all the data, while the public can see only selections. In others, everyone can see all the data, but only some people have access to add new data. A government, for example, could use a hybrid system to record the boundaries of Anne's property and the fact that she owns it while keeping her personal information private. Or it could allow everyone to view property records, but reserve to itself the exclusive right to update them. It is the combination of all these factors, decentralizing of the data, building trust in the data, and allowing us to interact directly with one another and the data, that gives blockchain technology the potential to underpin many of the ways we interact with one another. But, much like the rise of the internet, this technology will bring with it all kinds of complex policy questions around governance, international law, security, and economics. Here at the Center for International Governance Innovation, we seek to bring trusted research that will equip policymakers with the information they need to advance blockchain innovations, enabling economies to flourish in this new digital economy. Learn more about our work on blockchain technology by visiting our website and social media channels.
Yes, Robin. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robin.
Thank you,
So before we start with our presentation session again, a little wake up for everybody. Could you please use the chat window and list down what are the three basic features of blockchain that were discussed in this video? They were numbered 1, 2, 3. So use the chat window and write on whatever you remember about it.
One student aspect, decentralization.
Yeah,
No
it will be good if you
intermediaries.
could type it in the chat window because there are so many participants. We may not be able to hear out everyone. And others can also go to the chat window and see whether people are giving the correct answers or some different answers. I think we have this last in, first out logic working very well. The last point we remember the best. Yes, we are talking of trusted data. We are talking of no intermediaries. There's one more point missing. Decentralization is not the point. The other two are correct, not the decentralization part. So anyone else? No? Okay. Let's not tax our brains too much. There were three things that we saw in this video. The first one was, the way it tracks and stores data. We said that the data is stored in a blockchain, which is almost impossible to modify or delete. And that's what we saw as a feature of the blockchain also, that doesn't allow you to delete or modify record once it created. So that's why you can see that whatever is in the blockchain is always authentic and nobody has tampered it, or you can rely on it, or you can trust it. So you create this trust in technology because of creating this long chain of blocks. And the longer the chain, the more difficult it becomes to modify the previous blocks. This is something we'll see in the next video, how it happens and how you change something, what happens to the whole chain and so on. And because of this, you eliminate the third party or the middleman. So there are a lot of businesses today which run with middlemen. So they are the ones who first should be getting alert. That is, blockchain technology is one of the disruptive technologies in the world. All the middleman job will vanish, and people will start relying on the data available on the internet. For example, earlier there were a lot of agents I found who always used to distribute forms also and charge some money for that, or they used to fill up form for somebody for a government office. Now you don't need all that. You have online forms and everybody can fill them on their own. So you don't need to get to an agent to find, do you have a form? Will you please fill it for me? Will you be able to submit it for me? All that is gone with the internet. So that's how this technology is likely to disrupt. And we also saw that this business to business interactions where the data is only shared selectively, and that is where you could tamper with the data. If you start sharing it on a common platform or on a common blockchain available to all, then there is no question of tampering that data because everybody is using the same copy of the data or a copy of the same data, I would say, not. So it is replicated. The advantages of replication are that you cannot tamper, because if you modify it, it has to be modified everywhere. We will see that in one of the coming details on the technology part of it. Okay, so if you look at this video, we saw how a blockchain works or how a block is created. So first, there are 6 steps which are used to create data in the blockchain. So first, you have a transaction. Today, the way blockchain is not an application which is, so to say, a standalone application. You have your own web-based applications or database applications which run, and there are parts of it that you would like to store on the blockchain, because a blockchain is something that will be visible to a lot of many other external people. So you cannot replace your own internal ERP system with a blockchain, but you are going to selectively replace or replicate certain things from your internal ERP system onto the system for to be shared with others. So whatever transactions you want to share selectively, you request those transactions to be put in the blockchain. So all such transactions get collected in the blockchain, first of all, to form a block, because these are not committed transactions, so to say, just like a database. It's a transaction that you do, but it's not committed. So it collects all such transactions. When the block is ready, and a lot of transactions, typically the blockchain has a standard size for the transactions, whether it will be 2 MB, whether it will be 8 MB, whatever is the size. So when so many transactions get collected, you can form a block. So there can be a suggested block created out of such blocks or such data that you share with everybody and ask them that, are you all okay with this data? Because once you accept the data, there's no way to modify it. So it's better to validate with everybody rather than you trying to create some data which you believe is right, but nobody else believes is correct. So there are a lot of people or nodes which will validate those transactions and say, yes, this looks okay. We are okay with this. So once they do that, then finally somebody can create a block, and those transactions get packed into a block, and then the block gets replicated across all the participants. So that is how it works in several steps. So just creating a blockchain record is not a permanent record until all the concerned parties accept it and agree to it. So whichever transactions get created by one of the participants, for example, if you are a malicious participant, you want to create some fake record or something, you can create a request for blockchain, but other will not accept it. Hence your record gets rejected and it will not be appended in the blockchain. If everybody agrees to something, only those things get appended in the blockchain, and then to modify them, you need to have reversal entries. So you cannot delete or update the old record, but you can create a reversal entry. This logic was used since 1900s in our ledgers for accounting. So they said that a final entry in accounting was what they used to call as a pen entry, and all transactions which were kacha entries were pencil entries. So if you happen to have learned accounts before 1980s, you might have learned that there is a pencil entry and there is a pen entry. Once a pen entry is made in the ledger, you cannot change it, and the only way to change it is to create a journal voucher. So accounting systems have used something called as a journal voucher or JV to do it, and that is how blockchain also works. So you have to use a journal voucher or a correction entry later on, but the old entry is visible and a correction entry is created on top of it to reflect the change. So here is one more video which basically tells you how the details of the blocks are there, how they get created, etc. But it's a rather long video. So it's 15 or 18 minutes. I would not like to go into that entire one, but I would like to show you a few things in that which are important to understand. That first of all, you have to understand that there is something called as a genesis block, or the first block, which has no pointer before that. So that is called the zeroth block or the genesis block. It has a lot of logic of how this blockchain is going to work. So all the logic is picked up from the genesis block. Then you have the block hash. That is whatever data gets created or packed in that block is first of all hashed into a block hash. Then you have a pointer to the previous block hash, and then you have the transactions and so on. So I think let's have a look at this video, but we might skip some parts of it. And I would request you to go through this video on your own, because we may not have all the time to get into this. So let me just try to show some parts of it, and then we will skip it. There are in fact two sections to this video. There's part 1 and part 2, but maybe we will see part 1 only
in a
partially.
very visual way, though. I'm going to make it very easy to understand by stepping through the key pieces of what a blockchain is in a visual way. But before we get started, we need to take a look at this thing that we call a SHA-256 hash. Okay, and a hash, this is one of them right here. A hash looks like a bunch of random numbers. And essentially what it is, it's a fingerprint of some digital data. And it just so happens it's a fingerprint of whatever I type in this box. So if I type my name, Anders, into the box, you see that the hash has changed. Matter of fact, it changed every time I typed a letter, hash. And the interesting thing about it is, regardless of if there's a tiny amount of information, no information, or the entire Library of Congress, you're always going to get a hash that is this long, this many characters. You're not going to be able to pre-guess what this is. You kind of have to put the Library of Congress in here to figure out what the hash is. But you'll always get exactly the same hash regardless of how many times you put exactly the same information in. So what I'm going to do is extend this idea of a hash into something that we're going to call a block. All right, this one happens to. And because it does, totally arbitrarily, I'm going to say that this block is signed. Okay? So what would happen if I were to change any one piece of this information? Let's say if I were to type something here, right? The hash is going to change. And what's the chance of, if I type letters, this hash is going to start with 4 zeros? Pretty low. It's probably not, right? So let's see what happens when I do that. I'm just going to say hi. Oh, look at that, right? This hash does not start with 4 zeros. And so the big background here is turned red. So now you know that this block with this information in it is not a valid or a signed block, okay? And that's where this nonce comes in. This nonce is just a number that you can set to try to find a number that fits so that this hash starts with 4 zeros again. All right, so how do we do that? Well, let's start with 1. Does that start with, no, it's 3, 2, 7, that's not 1. So let's try 2, FF now, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get the idea. Like I could sit here, there's one that starts with a 0. I could sit here all day typing these numbers and trying to figure out one that actually is going to hash out to something that starts with 4 zeros. It's going to take a long time. So here I have my little mine button. I'm sure you've been wondering what happens if I press that. So what's going to happen when I press this mine button is it's going to run through all the numbers from 1 all the way up to try to find one where the hash starts with 4 zeros. And this process is called mining. Let's do it right now. Now it's checking all of the numbers from 1 all the way up. Whoop, there, now it's stopped at 59,396. And that one just happens to hash out to something that starts with 4 zeros. And it satisfies my little definition of what a signed block is. Okay, so that's a block. Block since then. Everything before is still green, but this one is red. So if I wanted to, change something in this blockchain, I could just go over to block number 5 right here. We could change it. I'll put high, and then we could remine it, and pick a different nonce. We'll do that right now, and we could essentially alter the chain. So we've done it. So that we should be good now, right? All right. Well, what happens if I go back in time to here and I break it here? Now I have to mine this block, which will pick a nonce that makes this block hash out to 4 zeros, if we can find one. Sometimes it takes a while because it's got to run through a lot of them. There it is. It found one at 138,000. All right, but this one is still broken because although this one starts with 4 zeros, adding the 4 zeros with different stuff up here still makes this block hash out incorrectly. So I also have to mine this block. All right. And that takes some amount of time. That one was a little bit quicker. And then I have to mine this block to fix it. All right. So what we're showing here is that if I go and change this last block, all I have to do is remine this block. If I go way back in time to back here and I make a change like that, I'm going to have to mine this one, this one, this one, and this one. So the more blocks that go by, the more blocks in the past that we are, the harder and harder and harder it is to make a change. And so a completely distributed copy, having a copy on many different computers, they can all very quickly see if all of the blocks are identical. And remember, blockchains can have 400,000 or 500,000 blocks very easily. So rather than checking through all of them, all you really have to do is look at the hash of the most recent one, and you can see that if anything in the past, anything way back here was altered, you can tell by looking at this at the last block in this in the chain. It's going to hash out to something that doesn't start with 4 zeros and looks very different from what the hashes on the good chains are. Okay, so that's a blockchain. That's the entire this. In the next block, another $100 comes out of nowhere and goes to honors. I'm a fan. I love it, right? I'll take $100. Now we have some transactions. You can see that they're all from Anders. They're all from me because I'm the only one who has any money at this point. So I'm sending 10 of my dollars to Sophie. Do I have $10? Yeah, I do. I look back and I see that this Coinbase transaction has given me 100, so I have at least 10 and I can send it on. And you add all these up and they don't go over 100, and it follows sort of a basic rule of a currency. Find that out. And that's actually one of the benefits of having a previous here. It's easy to go backwards. We just look for the block that looks like that has that hash, and here it is right here, right? So it points to blocks back in time and allows us to trace the provenance of any coin that we want. So that's a basic blockchain, and we're running a currency on top of it. And as you know, blockchains there are many copies. Everybody has a copy of it. So if we mutate this and make it $6, these go invalid. It does not agree with these blockchains down here, these copies of the same blockchain down here. So this resist tampering, which is what you want for a currency, it works very well for things that are small and transactional like this. I'll go ahead and fix that. And they're just a very efficient way to handle agreement on what has happened in the past. It's kind of this immutable history that goes down with time. So that's a basic blockchain and a token on it. We're glossing over some main points, but if you dig into the demo and click through these things and play around with it, you get a better and better idea of how this works. There will be a part 2 where we go into a little bit more detail about how the transactions are created. Till then.
Okay, so that
Good
was...
grammar and spelling are important.
Sorry.
But if you want to write essays that inspire, messages that forge brighter connections,
Yeah, so that was a quick view of how the blocks get created. The basic things we saw in that was that there is something called as a nonce, which is a number that is randomly generated by mining process, and that is used so that you don't tamper the data. Once you tamper the data, you need to set a new nonce, or you need to find something different, which takes time. And that is why the mining process is something that is designed to take longer time, so that you cannot keep modifying a lot of blocks in one go. If it takes time to modify a block, you cannot keep modifying a lot of old blocks until the time the others will not have those blocks. And that will easily point out that what you are showing and what others are showing is not consistent. So majority wins here again, that if majority of the people say that this is the block which we have, then you cannot have a different block. And the blocks will not match because of the pointers in that. It has those hash pointers and all, which show some differences. So it's very easy to check whether you have the right block or you don't have the right block. So I know it was a bit of skipping through this video because we don't have too much time to go through it, but I would request you to go through these videos, Blockchain 101, part 1 and part 2, to understand it in more details. It's very easy and explanative that how exactly the blocks get created. Now, how the data in the block is created, that is not explained in that video. So if you have the data blocks here, which is this L1, L2, L3, L4, these are the lowest level data blocks, which I say are your records in your database. So if you collect a set of records called L1 and other set of records called L2, L3, and L4, you can hash them using again the hash functions, and you can create a hash 00, 01. So 4 hashes could be created correcting each of these data. Then these two, the 00 and 01 hash, you again rehash to get a higher level hash, and you rehash this along with hash 0 and hash 1 to get a top level hash. So the whole data that you have, L1, L2, L3, L4, all that gets hashed into a single 256 character hash if you use the SHA 256 hashing method. If you use something different, it will hash into a different sized hash. That also we saw in the video, that the hash is always 256 characters if you use that hashing function. So this hash is what is actually stored in the blockchain, not the full data. So L1, L2, L3, L4 are your records, which are not stored in the blockchain typically, but only the hash is stored. And when you want to prove what is this hash, you have to go back to the data and show that data so that the blockchain is not overloaded with all the data. So it's a different kind of a technology where you have to see that only the minimum amount of information is stored in the blockchain, which ensures you to prove what was the original information. And for that, again, we have, besides hashing, we have two important characteristics or properties in mathematics, as we call it, to understand or to know that how will you prove that L1, L2, L3, L4 is the data that you have corresponding to this hash and not something else. To do that, we use the hiding and binding properties of hash functions. So in the video also, we saw that you have a message and you have a nonce. Using these two, you do the mining process and create a hash. Now, a hash is always unique, which gets created with this data. And the mining algorithm that we saw in the video was one which required you to create starting with 4 zeros. That's an arbitrary requirement. It's not a business requirement. The only need for such a requirement was that it takes time for you to do all this for mining, and you cannot keep mining blocks very fast one after other, so that you can't go back and remine all that. That is what he was trying to explain there, that the more longer chain you want to remine, the more impossible it will be because of the time constraint of mining. And once you create a hash, it is not possible to modify your message to suit the same hash. The hash will always change if you modify the message. It's very difficult to temper this message and get the hash again as the same one. It's almost impossible. So reverse is not possible. Secondly, if you have a hash which is there in the blockchain and you say or you claim that this is my message and this was the nonce which I used, which is available in the blockchain again, if all three are given, there is a verify function which says that yes, this message and this nonce create this hash. So now you are having two of them, while here you have three of them. So it can validate and say whether these three are together as a pair or not. So if there are two companies, for example, who claim data on the blockchain, and they say that, oh, by the way, this block data I have X copy, and the other company claims I have a Y copy, then which is correct? So you say, fine, you give your copy and we will use the hash and the nonce and put it in the verify function. The verify function will easily tell you that which of these copies is true or false. And the copy that is true, both the parties have to accept that, yes, this is the real data that was in the blockchain when it got created. So if you have your data and you try to modify it in your database also, it's not possible for you to convince everybody else, because they get convinced by this logic of verify. They say that, yes, whatever data is verifiable is the right data. If you come up with something else, that is not the verifiable data. Now, there are some people who argue that if you go do that and if you tamper data, how will you get back the original data? Because you have already tampered it. So the only way verify can tell you is that this is not the data. Now, which is the real data? They will not get it till you get the real data. So for that, you have so many copies of the blockchain maintained with every user. That is the reason why every user must replicate the blockchain copy. It's not like you have a centralized database in which all start using it as an application. That doesn't work. It's not a centralized database. It is a completely decentralized database with updates copied everywhere. So everybody has a copy of the block, or every node at least has a copy of the block. So that's the idea of, or that's the difference between a blockchain and a database kind of application system. So you have so to say a shared database, but only part of the shared database in terms of the hashing of data which is kept in the blocks is shared. So if you have all these hashes, for example, then there is no real data that you are sharing. So even if all the participants know what is there in the blockchain, they cannot make any sense out of that, because they only know that there is a hash and there is some data which is behind this hash, which is the real data. And if there's a dispute, if there's a legal issue, then only you have to come with the real data and prove that this hash corresponds to data which I have. And you cannot create an artificial data which matches with that hash. That's the exact reason why you can say that you can trust the data very much by whoever brings the right copy of the data. It's not that the data can be created from the hash. No, somebody must have the right copy. So if there are a lot of people in the system, all should have a copy of the blockchain, and everybody can offer their copy of the blockchain saying that my block so and so has this data or this hash. And if the hash is same for all the blockchains, then there will be only one data which will match with it. And whoever can bring that data, that data is correct. All others are wrong. So you can definitely conclude that who has got the right data, which was created at the time of creating that block. And later on, somebody else modified it or tempered it and so on. So that's how it works. So that's why it makes it tamper proof and so on. It's not that you can't change the database data, but you cannot change these hashes in the block that you store. So the blockchain is, first of all, not easy to modify, and everybody has a copy of it. We understood several other concepts in this, including what is symmetric encryption, what is pair encryption, and what is secure and public private keys. This was not covered as a part of that video, but for encryption, this is covered. And since we don't have much time to discuss or debate on this, I would put it as a homework for you that try to look at these concepts of symmetric and asymmetric encryption. And it basically addresses these three problems. So you have to understand what is the business need it addresses. Firstly, it helps in establishing the identity of the sender. So you need to know whether the message that you got from somebody is the original sender or it's a fake message. For example, you get a lot of fake emails also today, which are impersonated, or somebody else sends you by some other name. And then you are warned that don't click on such links, because if you doubt the sender, you should not click on links. But many times the sender names appear to be your friend, but they are really not your friend because somebody has impersonated the sender. So this encryption helps you identify the sender. It also ensures that non-tampered message is received. For example, if you receive a contract or if you receive a purchase order or an invoice, then you should be sure that it is not tampered. If it is tampered, then your copy will be different from the original sender's copy. So you should have some way to ensure that you got a non-tampered message and the message you got is the right one. It cannot be disputed later. And lastly, you need encrypting the message for secrecy. So these are three different uses. And for all these, you can use either symmetric or public-private keys, key pairs. And blockchain uses the same concept for encryption, for identity establishment, and for non-tampering of data that is stored in the blockchain. So there are different ways of using it. I hope you are aware of, at least heard of public-private keys and symmetric encryption and so on. There are again a lot of videos on that which you can go through. So to conclude on the theory part of it, there is a network required for blockchain to run. Each member can have roles, and ideally all these network nodes are connected to each other as a star network. So all the nodes who are participating members, they keep a copy of the blockchain. The blockchain itself consists of a set of transactions, which we saw. A candidate entry is created, and then once everybody accepts it, that becomes a valid or agreed transaction, which forms a part of the ledger. So the ledger is the block, or it's a Merkle tree that we saw, which includes a lot of data segments, which are transactions. So a lot of transactions get packed into one Merkle tree, and the block hash is created, and that is stored as a ledger in the blockchain. So these are three important concepts besides two more. So you need a network of users connected to each other. You need to create transactions, and you need to create a ledger, which is a transaction with opening balance, input, output, and closing balance. Then you need, since these transactions cannot be modified, you need a verification process first to ensure that all these transactions are acceptable by multiple members. And this verification can be public or it can be permissioned. So that is where this public and permission blockchain comes. There are certain permission blockchains in which only some people are allowed to verify, not anybody randomly can verify, but Bitcoin kind of a blockchain works with public verification. So anybody can look at the Bitcoin network and verify it. And lastly, you need a consensus mechanism that if there are multiple contending blocks or multiple people trying to say that this is the reality, then there should be some consensus on what should be the reality. For example, if I have 100 rupees and I give 40 rupees to 3 people, then obviously 2 of those transactions may be correct, but the third one cannot be correct because I cannot give 120 rupees out of 100 rupees that I have. So the question comes is, should I reject all 3 or should I accept 2 of them, saying that, yeah, 2 of them are correct and third one is not correct. So for that, this consensus comes into the picture where a lot of people will look at these transactions that you made and they will try to agree on certain transactions or accept certain transactions as being okay and not accept some being okay. For example, a lot of people might go with the timestamp value. They'll say that the first two transactions you did of paying 40 out of 100 is okay because you had money. But last time you had only 20 and out of that you try to pay again 100 or 40 and that is not okay. So those two transactions which majority accept will become accepted. Or you might have some people who have a rule saying that if you do such weird transactions, we'll reject all of them. And your community of members can reject all of them. So that depends on what kind of procedures and rules your members follow. So there are different consensus algorithms available, and we will not get into this because we have another session, I think, which follows on different algorithms for consensus and how they work and so on. So I will not like to get into their territory of explaining you something right now. So let's move on and we'll look at some of the opportunities for employment and learning in blockchain. I would just like to do a time check. Do you have another 5-10 minutes?
Yes, Atul, I think 5-10 minutes should be okay. Go ahead.
So we should be able to do this in another 10 minutes. So blockchain is a new technology, and if you look at the current time frame, 2018 to 2024, it is in the growth phase. So still now there are a lot of people who have a belief that this is a technology which will work, because before that, early adopters are the ones who are like adventurous people. They try out some technology which may or may not work. But today we are in a situation where most people tend to accept that this technology works. But still it is in the growth phase, in the sense that every Tom, Dick and Harry doesn't accept that blockchain is a technology to use. And people are saying that it might mature by 2025, when people will really accept and know that, yes, these kind of applications run on blockchain and these kind don't run on blockchain. So in the growth phase, there are a lot of applications which are tried out on blockchain. Many of them succeed, some of them don't. So that's where we are today. So this could be a good thing to look for, that where it stands. These two pictures have been taken from the IBM training site for blockchain. So it tells what are the various roles in the blockchain, the whole environment. So there could be users, there could be regulators, there is a membership service provider, there's an integration with the transactional, the basic existing applications and so on. But if you look at the technical roles, there are two: developer and architect. These are the two technical roles for computer science people. For all others, these other roles are also equally important. So we will get into these two roles in more detail of the technical part. So a developer role is basically one who writes the applications and smart contracts. So these are the two things they need to do. One is integrate with existing applications in terms of those transactions and messaging and event creation, as it is called. And you need to write smart contracts. And they interact with something known as a ledger, then the transaction processing platforms, the data services, and so on and so forth. So all this is like a database given to you. So they don't work on the blockchain storage part of it and consensus mechanisms, etc. But they say that given a platform like an Oracle database, I will try to use it to build my application. That's the developer job. And the second job is for the administrator. So the administrators are those who are like DBAs or database administrators today. So they will ensure that what kind of a blockchain you are going to create for your application users, what kind of peers will exist on it, whether it will be a public blockchain or a private blockchain, what consensus mechanisms you want to use in that, and then what security mechanisms you use in that, and so on. So these two are different kind of roles, which will be coming up in the few years, and you could focus on either of them. Now, typically what kind of expertise you need to learn blockchains is you need to understand some of these theories, typically digital key pairs, crypto tokens, Merkle trees, and hashing algorithms. Then you need to have a good understanding of Unix, JavaScript, Node.js, and JSON programming languages to learn these two specific languages used in blockchain smart contracts called Go and Solidity. So these are the ones which are used in Ethereum blockchain. Then you need to learn the concepts of public and private blockchain, and then consensus algorithms, privacy, security, etc. And the concept of forking of chains. That when multiple blocks get created as candidate blocks, and there are some users who agree on one set of block and some other users who agree on the other block, there are very rare occasions when both the chains start growing later on. But usually only one chain, which is the longest one, is preferred by everybody. there are very few exceptions where forking of chains does happen. In fact, it happened in Bitcoin in November 18. So if you're interested in knowing what happened and how, you can look for the Bitcoin history for November 18. And from Bitcoin, you created one more currency called Bitcoin Cash, which is on a different blockchain, which is forked from the original Bitcoin. But business blockchains usually don't do this kind of forking because all of them need to agree on the same set of transactions. Otherwise, you'll split your user groups only. Only for currencies you can do this forking, etc. It doesn't make sense for business transactions to fork the blockchains. But you need to understand these concepts, that when forking can be done. One more interesting point to note is about quantum computing that is coming up recently. That is challenging all the hashing algorithms and the guarantee that given a hash you cannot create the original data. So with quantum computing, people are saying that the existing hashing algorithms of 256 characters may not be good enough, and quantum computers may be able to hack into those hashing algorithms to create modified or tampered data which give you the same hash, which is currently not possible with computers. So that is something people need to be quite careful about, that the whole hashing algorithms and this encryption techniques can be completely smashed by quantum computing. It's still a long way, but could happen any day. So these are typically set of the skills required for the existing blockchain applications. So C++, C, etc. is required for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Litecoin. So there are a lot of applications. And the last three you see are specific languages for coding the smart contracts. So Ethereum and Hyperledger use Go or Smart Chain as the language. Solidity is used by Ethereum and distributed ledger. And Kotlin is used by Corda, which is the banking network. So those languages are for use for smart contracts. They are again based on Java. So if you understand Java and JSON kind of languages, then yeah, then it's easier to work on these languages. Given the employment opportunities, on the right side, you see the standard roles that you can have application, business apps, you can have technical, networking, architecture. But on the left side, you see there are a lot of startup opportunities in this that is going to disrupt. So one is the new economy based on Internet of Value Exchange. So you could create a lot of tokens, and maybe we'll have a session today to see what those tokens are, digital tokens, and how they can be used. You can use the new platforms, Ethernet, sorry, not Ethernet, but Ethereum and Hyperledger. So they are the platforms to use for business applications. There is a DAML company also. You can look up on the internet for DAML. That is a company which is creating distributed applications and application development platforms. And they have a lot of training also. There are new business models coming up based on tokens, which is the initial coin offering and crowdsourcing models for creating software. So they create tokens, digital tokens, and they give you those digital tokens as money, which is not real money, but it's a virtual money. And you can use those tokens for exchanging with something else. And lastly, you could look at distributed autonomous organizations. That's a dream.
Atul, CNC again, a little bit of a time check we have to do. If we can wrap up, because this PPTs we'll share with the students.
Yes.
Maybe we can try to wrap it up in next 2 minutes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I'll do it. We have another two slides only. So 2-3 minutes is okay. So there is a set of training materials, or there is a set of suggestions how you could go ahead with the training part of it. You could go through that. There are research opportunities also available on blockchain. So typically in terms of throughput of transactions, the latency time to update records, the bandwidth available to replicate data, security concerns, the mining wasted resources, because you do mining, then there's a lot of wasted resource. Usability of the tools available today, they are quite technical. Hard forking and multi-chains and link to databases. That how do you link database record and blockchain record to show real data, right? And that's another challenging area for research. Lastly, I would like to talk to you about College Campus Cash. That is one of the programs which you could discuss offline with me. So this is one of the way to learn and implement something in college, because people ask for internships and they say that we would like to build something. So I would suggest the best way is to start internship at your own college and build your own application. And if you can do whatever with that application, you will have enough experience by which you can get jobs later on. So instead of looking for an external organization to give you some internship in this area, we thought of creating an ecosystem in the college itself where you could use your own blockchain application for college use internally, only for trial purpose, so to say. And that will help a lot. So you could do build applications, develop and conduct training modules, organize hackathons, etc. So all this you could do. This last slide you could keep as a reference with you. I have Mr. Ashok Ranade, who is my mentor in this. He is still older to me, 72 years old now. And he is based at Canada. He has connections with these colleges and they run a lot of courses. And they are seriously interested in having students from India who could register for this certificate course, which is a postgraduate certificate course in blockchain. And they are willing to tie up with colleges here. One semester you can do in India and then get guaranteed admission in Canada for the next year. And so there are a lot of such opportunities. Even Bitcoin Bay conducts a lot of hackathons. Edward Bookie is their CEO. He's also in touch with us. So you could make use of such opportunities to learn blockchain from people abroad because they are much ahead of us. Canada is one of the countries which allows a lot compared to India. So these are the various courses which I did. I think it was referred in my initial introduction part of it. So I think that's all we have for today. Thank you very much. And over to you.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful session. Next, I am going to invite a presentation in Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science. It's
I think his network issue is having his network issue. Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science, you guys have 15 minutes. I hope you guys are ready with the presentation. We'll be notifying you every 2 minutes before ending the session. So just make sure you guys utilize the time. We'll be giving only 15 minutes, okay? Please go on with the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Elijah, can you load the slide, please?
Is there any problem with sharing the screen, sir?
Yeah, I'm
permission issue.
Yes. Please do it soon.
1 second, I will share otherwise.
So until Robin or others bring up the PowerPoint, I request all of you to be a little bit patient. I think we may be overshooting the time today. It's already 6 o'clock. We have 3 presentations scheduled for 15 minutes each, so we may go up to 6:45. So I want each team to be cognizant of time of the people who have assembled here. So I hand it over.
Are you able to view the
sir.
slides?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I move?
Sir, can we start now?
Yeah, please start, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Good evening to one and all. Let me start with the famous quote for the day. That is, the technology too powerful to ignore. Because the blockchain, it is a too powerful technology that we can't ignore it. Please introduce myself. I'm Shankar, Assistant Professor, Computer Science Department at Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science. And also, I have been working on the core research area on blockchain, how we can bring a change in higher education institutions in securing digital credentials. So this is my research area of which I've been working for 1 year. And today, I just want to introduce my team from HITS, that is CSC and IT department, which jointly has done a good research on the topic for the day, importance of digital assets, use of fungible and non-fungible tokens in blockchain applications. My team has come up with some realistic example or note to make you understand what exactly the key takeaways to be taken up and its importance in blockchain applications. So without taking much time, I'm handing over the session to Ms. Pavitra of CSE to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to one and all present here, and a warm welcome to one and all present here. So I'm feeling immensely pleasured and very happy in order to introduce my team members over here. So our HITS team members consist of Elijah Stephen, Poshni Ganesh, Mohammed Yahya, and Pavitra. So let's move on to the topic of today's session. It's regarding the importance of digital assets, the importance of digital assets and the use of fungible and non-fungible tokens in blockchain applications.
Shall I move to the next slide?
Next slide.
Sir. So the topics we are going to discuss here are about what is the definition of blockchain, what are the digital assets and how they are going to be related to the blockchain, and the various types of digital assets. And the example is of Ethereum token standards ERC20 and ERC721 is described briefly over here. So next slide, please. Regarding the definition of a blockchain is a digital ledger. A ledger is a kind of an important log which consists of all the transactions happening in the network. So it kind of duplicates and distributes the transaction all over the network of computer systems. So whenever a block is being each block in a chain, it consists of number of transactions. So every time a new transaction occurs, the blockchain creates a record for the transaction and it's being sent to every participant on the ledger. The decentralized database is being handled by the multiple users in the blockchain, and it is known as distributed ledger technology. Blockchain uses a type of distributed ledger technology because of its immutable cryptographic signature, which is called as hash, which is unique in its way. And regarding the working of a blockchain, so a block consists of a data, and it consists of the hash as well as the hash of the previous linked blocks. Whenever a block is created, it's being verified and the nodes are being checked in the network by using consensus algorithms such as proof of work and proof of stake. Once a consensus is being reached, once a consensus checks the block, whether it's validated or not, then it is being attached to the previous blocks. If there is going to be any kind of modification in the data, then the block won't be linked with the other blocks. It would be given a separate place. And next, regarding this, because of these kind of features, if the attacker has a control of majority of nodes, then it becomes easy. But it is actually difficult to have a control of majority of nodes. And with the help of decentralized cryptography, it is possible to maintain the integrity of the data. So this is an example regarding how the blockchain is going to work. So an example is that Alice wants to send money to Bob. So the transaction is represented in online in a form of a block. The block is then broadcasted to all the networks. The network approves the transaction. Once it's being approved, then the block is being added into the existing previous blocks. So this shows the complete process of the blockchain working. Then this is regarding the digital assets. Assets are nothing but they are capable of being owned to produce in value. So here the digital assets are nothing but they are the representation of assets which is stored in the blockchain technology. So such assets, they can include various types such as cryptocurrencies, securities, or real estates. These can be trusted and verified because of their cryptographic nature, and they do not need any intervention of a third party existence onto it. So these assets can be represented in form of tokens. Now I would like to pass on my control to Elijah, who will be giving a more information regarding the tokens.
Who is the next person?
It's Elijah, sir.
He is there?
Yes, sir, he was there.
Continue, otherwise some person.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, we are able to hear you. You can continue.
Okay, no, very sorry about that. Okay. So as Pavita said that the tokens can represent the digital assets which are stored in the blockchain, and they come under two main categories. That is, one is fungible and non-fungible. The next slide. So the fungible tokens, those tokens we can exchange readily easily, like how we readily exchange currencies like rupees, dollars, or euros. Then for non-fungible tokens, those represents assets which has a ownership to it, like a car or security or the real estate. Those the only way in which the trading can take place is through a smart contract, which is agreed upon by the mutual parties. Next slide. And now I hand over the example that is ERC20 to Poshni.
Yeah, thank you, Elijah. Hello, everybody. Good evening. This is Poshni Ganesh from Hindustan Institute of Technology and Sciences. So today I'm going to be talking about ERC20, which is the abbreviation of Ethereum Request for Comment. So basically, ERC20 tokens are tokens designed and used solely on the Ethereum platform. They allow a list of standards so that they can be shared, exchanged for other tokens, or even transferred to a crypto wallet. So this being the information about when the document was created and so. So ERC20 has a list of methods and events that I would be explaining now. Sir, next slide, sir. Yes, so these are the list of methods that basically make ERC20 stand out, and explaining these functions, the first one being the name, which returns the name of the token. So basically the first three fields, the name, symbol, and decimals, are optional fields in the sense they could be used and they cannot be. It's up to the user as to which to implement in which code. So the second one being the symbol. So each Bitcoin or each token has its own symbol. It could be represented or no. The third one being the decimals. Okay, so basically this being another optional field, it is used to determine what decimal place the amount of the token will be calculated. Most commonly it is the decimal number 18. And the next one being the total token supply. Basically, although the supply could easily be fixed as it is with Bitcoin, this function allows instead of the contract to calculate and return the total amount of the token that exists in the circulation. The next function being, the next method being balance off. So basically this function allows a smart contract to store and return the balance of the provided address. Okay, so this function accepts an address as a parameter. So it should be known that the balance of any address is public. The next one being transfer from. So this function allows a smart contract to automate the transfer process and send a given amount of the token on behalf of the owner. Approve being a very important method because only when the sender and the receiver agree to make the transaction that can happen, or else it cannot. Allowance is basically the amount which the spender is allowed to spend, because there's supposed to be a specific amount of tokens that has to remain in your account for the transaction to happen. The next one being the events. So next slide, please. Yes, so as I mentioned, these two will come under the methods as well, but as events, they play a major role because during the transfer, it is very important to keep contact, to keep in mind of how much is being transacted and how much is it happening with the approval of the sender and the receiver? So these two are the major events that take place, and they determine and represent ERC20 as a separate whole. So I would like to give control to Yahya to take over to talk about ERC 721.
So good evening, one and all present here. Myself, Mohammed Yahya from Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science. Sir, can you change the next slide, please? So now I'm here to talk about the standard in ERC 721. So this is nothing but a non-fungible token standard. So it is a standard interface for non-fungible tokens, also known as deeds. So while we look further about the ERC 721, it is an Ethereum request for comment document, and this document is have been created on 24th of January of 2018. So this describes the standard that is for implementing the APIs for smart contracts in order to handle non-fungible tokens. So the standard provides basically functionality to track and transfer the non-fungible tokens. So NFTs can either be tracked or transferred. So while we look upon the use cases of the NFTs, non-fungible tokens, it includes being owned and transacted by the individuals, and as well as those who have been given to the third-party brokers or wallets or auctioneers. Those are called as operators actually. The NFT can represent ownership over digital or even physical assets. So this is about the ERC 721. So we would like, I'd like to show you about the methods and the events of ERC 721. Can you change the next slide, sir? So these are the various methods for ERC 721 interface. The first function, balance of, counts all the NFTs assigned to an owner. The second function, owner of, finds the owner of the non-fungible token. And those two functions stay safe transfers the ownership of an NFT from one address to the other. So the function approve kind of changes or reaffirms the approved address from a non-fungible token. So the function set approval for...
Sorry to interrupt, you guys have 2 more minutes left.
Okay, fine. So the function set approval for all enables or disable approval for a third-party operator. So the function get approved gets the approved address for a single NFT, and the function is approved for all queries if an address is an authorized operator for another address. So these are about the methods. Now we can see about the events. Can you change the next slide, sir? So the event transfer occurs only when the ownership has been transformed from the one address to the other. So next event is approval and approval for all. Approval corresponds to a single NFT, while approval for all corresponds to all the NFT tokens being used. So the event approval emits when the approved address for an NFT is changed or reaffirmed. This indicates there is no approved address. Then for approval all, in here the operator can manage all NFTs of the owner. So these are all about the events. So finally, I'd like to conclude the presentation with a thanking note to the PALS Institute and H Management for giving us the opportunity to present on the topic importance of digital data sets for the day. So we are much obliged to await for the upcoming sessions to be presented by the other teams, and also for the upcoming events to be conducted by the PALS Institute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. That was very brief and in time. Next, I'd like to invite Sri Venkateshwar College of Engineering. If I'm not wrong, the students are Poonam, BN, Harish Kumar, Suraj Ram, Kishore, and Shoaib Akhtar. You guys also have 15 minutes time to present your presentation. Please go ahead and share your screen. I'll intimate when you have 2 minutes left.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Is the slides visible?
Yes.
Yes, Suraj, you can start the presentation.
Yeah. Good evening to one and all present here. We, the team from SVCE, are here to present on the comparison of any 3 consensus techniques used in blockchain along with the relative advantages and disadvantages. Our team members, Harish Kumar, myself, Suraj Ramesh, Shoaib Akhtar, Poonam, and Kishore will be taking you through this session. An overview of what we are going to engage you with. Next slide, please. So we will be seeing about the major three consensus techniques, namely proof of work, POW, proof of stake, POS, and proof of burn, POB, and a simple comparison between the three. Next slide, please. So let's begin. So what is actually a blockchain? A blockchain is a system of recording information in a way that makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. Blockchain is essentially a digital ledger of transactions that is duplicated and distributed across the entire network of computer systems. By design, a blockchain is resistant to modification of its data. This is because once recorded, the data in any given block cannot be altered retroactively without alteration of all subsequent blocks. Next slide, please. So the following are the applications of blockchains: secure sharing of medical data, musical royalties, real-time IoT operations, cross-border payments, supply chain and logistic monitoring, anti-money laundering tracking system, and personal identity security. Next slide, please. Blockchain consensus. Yes. A consensus mechanism is a fault-tolerant mechanism that is used in every computer and blockchain system in order to achieve the necessary agreement on a single data value or a single state of a network among distributed processes or multi-agent systems such as with cryptocurrencies. It is most useful in record keeping and among other things. Next slide, please. So we have nearly 6 consensus techniques in blockchain. They are proof of work, proof of stake, proof of burn, practical Byzantine fault tolerance, proof of capacity, and proof of elapsed time. So over to Poonam for proof of work.
Next slide, please. So proof of work. It's a consensus algorithm used to select a miner for the next block generation. Bitcoin uses this POW consensus algorithm. Central idea revolves to solve a complex mathematical puzzle and easily give a solution. So it requires a lot of computational power, so the node who solves the puzzle as soon as possible gets to mine the next block. Next, please. Next slide. Mathematical puzzle is an issue that requires a lot of computational power to solve. There are a lot of them, for instance, hash function, or how to find the input knowing the output. Integer factorization, in other words, how to present a number as a multiplication of other numbers. Third, guided tour puzzle protocol. If the server suspects a DOS attack, it requires a calculation of hash functions for some nodes in a defined order. In this case, it's a how to find a chain of hash function values problem. The answer to the POW problem is hash. Algorithms need more hash power to solve difficulties. So the complexity of the task is a sensitive issue. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of the proof of work implementation. Next slide. How complex a puzzle is depends on number of users, current power, and the network load. The hash of each block contains the hash of previous, thereby increasing security and preventing block violation. Next slide. So where is POW used? Cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin laid the foundation for this type of consensus. The puzzle is Hashcash. The algorithm allows changing the complexity of a puzzle based on the total power of the network. The average time for the block formation is 10 minutes. Second, Ethereum. Majority of blockchain applications use POW consensus model. Next slide. So what are the POW advantages? Number one, defense from DOS attacks. Efficient attack requires a lot of computational power and a lot of time to do the calculations. Therefore, the attack is possible, but kind of useless since the costs are too high. And second, mining possibilities.
What matters is to have a large computational power to solve the puzzles and form new blocks. Thus, the holders of huge amounts of money are not in charge of making decisions. Next slide. So these are the POW limitations. Number one, huge expenditures. Mining requires specialized computer hardware, costs are unmanageable, machines consume large amounts of power, thereby it threatens the centralization of the system. Second, uselessness of computations. They guarantee the security, but its calculations cannot be applied in every single field. Third, 51% attack. This happens when a user or a group of users control the majority of mining power and events in the network. This can monopolize generating new blocks and receive rewards by preventing other miners from completing blocks. Next slide.
Good afternoon to all. Myself, Shoaib Akhtar. I am going to give you a short introduction about the proof of stake. What is proof of stake? Proof of stake concept states that a person can mine or validate block transactions according to how many coins he or she holds. In POS, instead of miners, there are validators. Why is POS? POS is a modification of proof of work introduced in 2012 as a means to solve its perceived dependency on energy consumption. Rather than rely on computers racing to generate the appropriate hash, the idea behind the POS algorithm pseudo-randomly select a node to propose the next block to the blockchain. In POS, validators who want the opportunity to be selected to add blocks to a POS blockchain are required to stake or lock a certain amount of the blockchain's cryptocurrency in a special contract. Next slide, please. The amount of coins staked determines the chances to be selected as the next block producer. In order to not always favor the wealthiest nodes, POS may involve the determining factors. These may include the amount of time a node has staked their coins as well as pure randomization. Some of the POS currencies are given there. Those are EOS, Tezos, Cardano, Cosmos. Advantages of POS are it is energy efficient, low barrier to entry. POS cryptocurrencies are generally faster than POW cryptocurrencies. Next slide, please. Disadvantages are users with large amount of coins have an outsized influence on consensus process. The rich who can pre-purchase tokens will control the network. That's it. Over to Kishore. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Kishore and I am going to present proof of burn concept. So proof of burn is an alternative consensus algorithm that tried to address the high energy consumption issue of POW system. So I can tell that POB is also called a POW without an energy waste, since it operates on the principle of allowing all the miners to burn all the virtual currency tokens. So they are granted the right to write blocks in proportion to the coins burned. So Ian Stewart, the inventor of the algorithm, uses an analogy to describe this algorithm. So he told that burn coins are like mining rigs. So a miner burns their coin to buy a virtual mining rig. So that gives the power to mine all the blocks. So more the coin burned by the miner, the bigger their virtual mining rig will be. So this means that when we burn more number of coin, we need a bigger virtual mining rig. So in order to sustain an equivalent balance in energy so that there will be lack of energy waste. Over to next slide. So this is the protocol of proof of burn. So users send their coin to an unspendable or an ether address. So in this term, the ether address means an address in which the coins are sent. So which make the coin to be unused permanently. So we can't reuse even after some time. So it is made to be destroyed permanently, and a virtual mining rig is given that the mines on behalf of you without wasting all the resources. So what happened is in proof of burn, every wasted coins are get burned in such a way that the wastage of energies are reduced, and then no, all the energy level is balanced. So more the number of coins burned, more powerful is the mining rig, and the power of this rig decay partially and become obsolete over time. So after destroying a large number of coin, that rigs become obsolete. It becomes degrade gradually and it becomes void after some time. Over to the next slide, please. So this is the real-time example for proof of burn. So in Slim coin, virtual currency that use POB. So it allows a miner to burn a coin that not only gives them the right to compete for the next block, but also give them the chance to receive blocks during a long time period for at least a year. So essentially, Slimcoin uses all the concept, but its whole ecosystem follows POB, that is proof of burn concept. Fine. Over to the next slide, please. So these are the advantages of POB. POB offers a long-term investment of a project since there is no energy waste due to burning unused coin. And this POB offers greater stability due to long-term investors and no energy waste. And POB also helps to determine the distribution of cryptocurrency in a fair and decentralized way. So the main drawback that POW faces is that POW spreads all the cryptocurrency in a centralized way, but POB spreads the distribution of cryptocurrency in a decentralized way. So this difference alone makes the POB algorithm to be more efficient. And next slide, please. Coming to the disadvantages, so it is not proven to work in a large scale as more testing is needed. So in order to burn one coin, I need to test each and every coin. So in order to burn a large number of coin, I need to do a lot of testing. So it is not proven to work. And verification of the work done by the miners is delayed. So when I test large number of coins, I have to verify a large numbers so that the time delay will happen. So the time factor will cause the work to be done at a slow rate, and the process of burning coin is not always transparent or verifiable. So it is always lying dormant. So we can't see in a transparent manner in such a way that where the coin goes on. We can tell that an ether address take the coin away, but how it is going on, it is not transparent to us. We can't see it. And not really eco-friendly, as bitcoins burn are generally through POB mining require a lot of resources, because burning a bitcoin is not an easy process. It requires a lot of resources, so it is not friendly in blockchain technology. Thank you. Over to Harish Kumar.
Thank you, Kishore. Good evening to all.
Team, you guys have 2 minutes left.
Yes, we can finish. So is my audio clear?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, bro, clear.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So my teammates explained about the various consensus of blockchain, the proof of work, proof of stake, and proof of burn. So here I'm going to present few simple comparison between the POW, POS, and POB. So the proof of work, the algorithm is basically designed in such a way that every single change in the input results in the output being completely different, bearing no resemblance to the output. But when we compare to that of proof of stake, it is an algorithm to achieve distributed consensus within the blockchain network. But proof of burn is an intended alternative replacement for the proof of stake and proof of work while achieving the distributed consensus. Proof of work is based on recursive hashing to find a nonce and its implied cost in mainly time, equipment, and electricity. But in proof of stake is intended to replace proof of work, as I discussed earlier. Proof of work is since a significant chunk of people believe that recursive hashing is largely unproductive and it's unnecessary. Proof of burn significantly is largely brought about by burning tokens, as explained by Kishore, in a unrecoverable manner such that it's easy to verify and extremely hard to reverse that. So these are the other comparison. So proof of work, to do some work to mine a new block. So some sort of work has to be done to mine a new block, whereas in proof of stake, acquire sufficient stake to mine a new block, but in proof of burn, we have to burn some wealth to mine a new block. So proof of work consumes physical resources like computer processing, central processing units of a system, the power and time. But proof of stake consumes no external resources, but participates in transitions. Yeah, I'm going to come. Yeah.
Your time is up, so I
yes,
think you have to stop the
So this is the overall comparisons. So thank you for giving this opportunity for PALS, and I thank my college management also for providing this opportunity. So
Thank you for the
these
present.
are our references.
Thank you for the presentation. Next, I am welcoming Bellala College of Engineering and Technology team to give their presentation.
Yes, sir, thank you. Is my screen is visible?
Yes.
Go ahead.
A warm good evening to each and everyone present here. Myself Narmata, and I got a group of young minds including me, Keetana, Samya Devi, Balaji and Yuveshri. We are from Vellalar College of Engineering and Technology. We are glad to be here with all of you today. Now let's get into the presentation. Our topic is about importance of digital identity and its management using blockchain. So what is digital identity? It's nothing but our identities saved through online or internet or something like that. So how this blockchain is related to this digital identity? That's what we are going to see in this presentation. Let's get started. I call upon Samya Devi to take it forward.
As we all know that digitalization has hit almost all areas from banking to farming. This revolutionary process is very significant for all businesses because it increases economic activity and productivity. And this digital technology is also coming to the rescue of those people who don't have a proper legal identity, which means that they don't have a right or access to authentication documents such as births, who they are. As a problem, the concept of digital identity arises. Then let's see, what does digital identity means? It is nothing but it is the digital representation of the information about a specific individual, group, or an organization. It consists of the individual's person's personal data that is available in online. It contains not just an email or physical address, but also pictures, back information, and shopping preferences. And that too, this identity is not uniform and can vary depending upon the platforms like banking systems, social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next, let's see, why is digital identity important? It is very, very important because it ensures while expanding the customer onboarding process and preventing anti-money laundering and fraudulent activities. It also gives you the opportunity to what kind of a business you are doing, and it also helps in the development of your business, right? And the main aim of digital identity is to create the same level of confidence and trust, and that a face-to-face transaction would generate. And it also brings about social transformation and economic upliftment of welfare measures. Then next, let's see digital identity in blockchain. Traditional digital identity management systems available in today are fragmented, insecure, and exclusive. This has paved the way for the creation of digital identity and management using blockchain, because blockchain is most secure and it provides unified and tamper-proof infrastructure. And this also used to resolve the problems such as inaccessibility, data insecurity, and fraudulent activities. By building a strong digital identity, businesses can easily create an accurate and complete view of the customers. Presentation.
Next slide, please.
Applications of digital identity. In today's digital age, you simply cannot do without a digital identity. From your emails and professional Skype meetings to your social media and e-commerce activities, your digital identity is the version of you that exists in the digital world. There are various applications that uses the digital identity. Some of the applications are educational, professional, and personal. Educational. In educational field, we use the DI to research, explore, and learn ourselves, and it mostly inexpensive. To do group projects, we use Dropbox, Google Docs, etc. Various applications. To access these applications, we need DI. Professional and employmental. 50 percentage to 70 percentage HR people scan an individual's digital identity during the hearing process of that group. 86 percentage say a positive digital identity helps. With digital identity, you can make yourself a positive appearance to the employers over the world. You can find job opportunities, etc. Personal social networks. We all use the social networks like Facebook, Instagram, Skype, mails, etc. to connect ourselves with people. To communicate, connect, and interact digital identity, certainly crucial to use some of the applications, tools, and technologies on online. Now we see that digital identity is always exist in everyone. So how to protect our digital identity from hackers and thieves? Some of the common ways to protect our digital identity are, next slide please. Use a variety of strong and hard to guess passwords. If you forgot your password, you can use a password manager. Make sure you always update your operating system, apps, and browsers so that it can be protected with latest security patches. Don't use public Wi-Fi. It is better to use a VPN to ensure all your online activities. Be careful while posting or sharing anything in online across your DI. Make sure you check your credit report often and make note of any changes, no matter how small it is. Consider using an anti-tracking software to protect your digital footprint and keep yourself safe from invasive online tracking. Even though the digital identity is used along with the biometrics technology and digital verification of government issued identification, those informations all are stored in a common servers which can be easily hacked. Next, the topic will be taken by my friend Narmada, why the blockchain is used in DI.
Yeah. Why blockchain is better than any other technologies, even there are more technologies, why we use this particularly. Of course, blockchains will not be a cure for all societies else. No single tool or technology ever can be. Then why do we prefer this? There are some features which makes this blockchain technology preferable. The first one is increased capacity. This is the first and an important feature of blockchain. The most remarkable thing about this blockchain technology is that it increases the capacity of the whole network by having a lot of computers working together, which in total offers a great power, thereby increasing the capacity. So the second one is better security. If we feel secure, that creates trust. That's how it works. Blockchain technology has a better security because there is not even a single chance of shutting down of the system and no loss of data. And the third one is immutability. Immutability means nothing but data will not change for a long time once it was created. Creating immutable ledgers is one of the main values of blockchain. And the next one is faster settlement. We can change the time consuming settlement problem in banks by the means of blockchain, as it can settle money transfer at really fast speeds. And the next one is decentralized system. It means no single entity can have a control over someone's account or something. So through this, owner can have a direct control over his account. The last one is minting, validation of data, nothing but. So minting is the process of validating information, whether it is correct or not, creating a new block and recording that information into the blockchain. Thereby, it manipulates the data. So these features make blockchain preferable than any other technologies in identity. I'll give the rest to Balaji.
Thank you. And now we are going to see about how an digital identity works. It has 5 levels of starting from data management to interface. In data management, it defines how to store, secure, change, retrieve, and achieve data about a person. It also needs to define how to delete your personal information. In authentication, A user provides, for example, a user provides and a password to enter into his portal. We need to give us a we need to authenticate his password. We will consider this authentication tool as a proof. So a authentication proof is an example given by a user. Verification. The step of verification says whether the provider authentication and proof of identity are valid and information given is correct and in line with previously stored data. It matches with the stored data and gives the result for this authentication proof. Access. It refers to the right of a user to access their account and the right of a user or third party to access a personal identify information. After the authentication and verification is success, service access is given to the every user while you who is using his or her digital identity interface. It's nothing but interaction between service and customer or user who is going to use his profile for by using his own digital identity. And now we are going to see about various blockchain use cases in digital identity. First of all, I'm going to say about authentication of digital identity documents. On the lowest level, blockchain can be used to verify the authenticity of an identity document. This solution uses blockchain to store and access authentication information, which streamlines the verification process while providing data protection. Two local governments, including West Bengal, is currently working on a project to bring application for birth certificates using blockchain system. Identity verification. Blockchain-based KYC solutions allow a streamlined and fast process for identity verification. Apart from speed, blockchain brings additional security and trust to KYC process as the cryptographic signature of a verification can be checked on the blockchain. Multi-platform login and access management. Once a user identity is verified, that identity should provide access to not only to one but multiple services. It uses a verified identity for secure registration and logins on web and mobile apps without the need for usernames or passwords. A public identifier with hashed identity data is used for authentication process. A flag indicates whether the data is still valid. The ultimate blockchain use case is self-sovereign identity. Above all, the concept of self-sovereign identity is the ultimate level of blockchain implementation of digital identity. Self-sovereign identity comes closest to a definition of identity in the offline world. A person is the owner of their own identity and can provide proof that this identity is valid. On blockchain, proof is provided to decentralized, verifiable credentials. Ultimately, that person can also control the information that is shared, which is the core concept of self-sovereignty. And now I hand over my session to Yoshri.
Yeah, now we go to the user interface. User interface is a decentralized blockchain platform. It does not store the information in the central location. Blockchain technology is expanding the network communication very speed from just moving the information to the transmission of value. Next, the use of UI. Digital product plays a main role in the user interface design, and both the business and the design teams goal is combination of collaborative workshops and the ongoing testing. And the guides communicate key design information to both product management and the development team. In user interface, prototypes are reduce cost by uncovering errors and functionality of the product. Next. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Team, you have 2 minutes left.
Now it's time to conclude. In blockchain technology, we need to work on the future generation challenges like financial inclusion, big health data, global energy production, and the risk modeling, so on. A new form of automated global infrastructure is the identify, that is deep learning, validate and route transactions, that is blockchain. Thank you for giving us this fabulous opportunity, Paul, and time with you all. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, team Research. That was a very nice the presentation. Now, I want to thank first. I want to thank all the teams and colleges for your participation. That was it for today's presentation. Now we'll move on to the question and answers part of the session. Mr. C and Chandrasekhar sir will be taking question answer session. So any questions, any doubts you guys have regarding today's presentation, uh, you can you can send those questions in the chat box.
Yeah, thanks. This Commonwealth of a Memo City, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. I think the last nearly about 3 hours or maybe 2 hours, we have been packed with a lot of blocks of information about blockchain. I think rather than going through questions and getting answers, I think we got a lot of answers. I will skip the question session. Atul, we will send you these questions. But if you can give just a quick 2-minute feedback on the three presentations made by the students, supported by faculty, that will be helpful. Atul, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I really find that the students have put in a lot of effort in understanding the concepts behind those presentations, and they have done a good job of it. The first one was more on digital assets and fungible and non-fungible tokens, and they could give real good examples of that. The comparison of some of the algorithms for or this concurrency or consensus methods that they use, I find that they use some methods which are closer to each other. I would say that there are different kinds of methods which are not so close to each other, so they could have tried using some other methods. And another point that they said was most of the consensus algorithms used are proof of work, which is not true. It's only true for the public blockchains, because when you want to use a public blockchain, you'll need these kind of proof of work methods. But a lot of private blockchains simply go and bypass those methods which use a lot of power or they need a lot of time, and they have found out methods like PBFT and POET, which are much more efficient, which the team did not cover. So I thought maybe they could have covered those. And identity management, yes, the team covered a lot of details and they have done a lot of work on it. But one thing we need to look at in identity management also is our government has also come up with Aadhaar based identity, and they have to differentiate between what is a centralized identity management system like the government implementing something, and what is a decentralized and autonomous identity management systems which are being talked of as a part of blockchain. Because most of the blockchain enthusiasts do not like this control or centralized control of systems. But overall, yes, they did a very good job. Thanks for presenting.
Thank you, Atul. That's very encouraging feedback to students. Congratulations, students and the faculty who supported them for coming up with this wonderful presentations. Complementing the presentation by Atul. Yeah, so he came in as a guest speaker. He is no longer a guest to us. He's offered a lot of things as a follow up to this session. Thank you, Atul, for suggesting internship project to college campus cash, which would give a good handle on learning the blockchain technology. It's really a great thing that you have suggested, and we look forward to getting your guidance, passing on to the team. Whoever comes forward to build this blockchain application, definitely it will be a great thing for them. And then you also recommended a lot of higher education with opportunities to study from expert in Canada. That's a great thing. I think something that the students can look up to, considering the fact that you laid out a lot of career opportunities with the different roles in blockchain area. I think it's something that students can look forward to. It's a great thing for their future. Thanks a lot. I think I will actually take forward this my session as a thanking note for all those who have joined today and who have been behind this session today. I thank Dr. Vasudevan of HITS, for outlining the AACT thrust areas and giving a quick overview of blockchain from his standpoint. That is very good, Dr. Vasudevan. And we also thank the Dean and other EC members who joined the session from HITS. Then we had Dr. Badrinathan talking about advanced technology, disruptive technology, upskilling, reskilling, very relevant for a session like this where students are joining, and these are campus sessions. Students have to take a lot of information, and this is a good way of it's a good conduit for channelizing this kind of key information to students. Thanks for bringing up the advanced technology, disruptive technology, and all of that. And there are also, I noticed there are EC members due to the time constraint. I don't want to read out all the names. Thanks to EC members of SVCE for joining and other faculty members. And we also had people from VSET joining. And thank all the faculty members who joined today, in support of the PALS initiatives for campus events. Thank you very much. And of course, thanks to the 3 student teams who did a wonderful presentation. Atul complimented for their work. And I also saw that there are a lot of things for the general benefit of all the students who joined today. Thank you very much for doing a little bit of research. We know that the 15 minutes each is a very short duration. Considering the digital fatigue that we're all going through, we are not able to allow more time. But I think we'll get more opportunities for discussing this in the future. And we also thank all the PALS core team members who are present today, and the PMO who actually have been behind working very hard to get together all the people and get the whole thing working. Thanks to Robin, Lavena, and all the members of the PALS PMO team. Thank you very much. Back to MOC team.
MC
Take
team, you
over.
are not thanked the MCs, CNC.
I thought they are master of ceremony, right? So I thought they're called MOC.
Thank you, MCs.
Thank you.
Very good.
And we'll have a quick.
Thank you, sir.
Can you switch on the video, the teams and the. Yes.
And Atul also, and I see Mr. Vishwanathan. If he's
Yeah,
there,
Vishwanathan
you
is
just
also.
put a video on.
I'll.
Thank you, Mr.
Take a
Jayakumar.
quick photograph.
Good evening.
The teams, quickly switch on the video. Still many of them not open.
CNC, your video.
CNC? I think it's gone. Yeah.
How do you get the gallery view?
It is in the gallery view. They have not. Anu ma'am is also joined.
Afternoon, Anu.
It's taking a long time today, right?
Okay.
Robin,
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Post it in the WhatsApp group. Put the picture in the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vishwanathan.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mr. Atul.
Thank you, sir. Feedback forms and quiz forms have been posted in the chat box. So please fill out the feedback forms and attend the quiz before you leave the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sanand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Robin, can you stop the live streaming?
Yes.